Let's have a look at the state of the Australian election campaign. Now, we are not officially in an election campaign. It has not been called yet, but we are definitely in the swing of it, as it must be held by the 17th of May. So, let's see how things are going. Late last year and early this year, the common consensus was that the Liberal National Coalition were ahead. Albanese was weak, and Dutton was tapping into the anger of the electorate, and this seemed to hold up until the start of March. In fact, in the middle of February, we got a freshwater poll that claimed the coalition would win 55 to 45 on a two-party preferred basis against Labor. This is landslide territory. But after that, we see the popularity erode. Things are evening out. Labor is up. The coalition is down. And this Monday, Roy Morgan released a poll giving Labor 54.5 to 45.5. The tables have turned. So, how did this turnaround happen? Here is what I think is happening. First, Labor has had some policy success. Things aren't looking as bad for Labor as they were late last year. We're seeing some positive signs in the economy. Consumer sentiment is up. Not in positive territory, but close enough to neutral. House prices have stabilized. Inflation is down more or less to target levels. Labor saw their efforts rewarded by an interest rate cut on the 18th of February. It looks like their efforts to tackle the cost of living are finally bearing fruit. To be clear, I'm not saying they've solved the problem. There are still many people struggling, and the cost of living is still the number one issue this time around. Nonetheless, it always helps the government when they see some results. Labor have also had some success in new policy announcements. They have been making an aggressive pitch on health. They have announced a large boost to Medicare that would see most doctor visits paid for by 2030 through bulk billing. Now, the coalition were quick to match this, but it's still a win for Albo given that they are setting the narrative on campaign issues. These factors have helped the government slightly over the last month or two, but they have had help from another unlikely fellow, Donald Trump. Back in November, it felt like the logical choice for any conservative politician was to copy Trump. He led the Republican Party to a decisive victory, turning the right into rock stars and silencing the left. This is undoubtedly why Peter Dutton decided to focus on culture war issues in his campaign. He spent much of the early stages of the campaign fighting the Aboriginal flag and fighting for Australia Day. Why waste time on building economic policy, especially when that could lower property prices, something the Liberal Party does not want? Culture is now the winning strategy. Doge is the new fashionable branding to cut government spending, something the coalition has strived for since forever. Dutton wasn't alone in this, but fast forward to today and the Trumpist strategy no longer seems to be such a winner outside America. For starters, everyone can now see the chaos that Musk and Doge have created, but more importantly, we found out that when Trump said America first, he meant it. Poilievre of Canada was the first to feel this as Trump has repeated threats to annex his country and make it the 51st state. Poilievre was assured a victory in Canada's election this year, and now he may well lose. In March, the fight has come to Australia, where Trump has turned away from traditional allies and imposed steel and aluminium tariffs, with the threat of more tariffs to come. This has made Australians question how reliable a partner the United States is, and it has empowered the more managerial Albanese to show his strength, not only allowing him to give decisive statements supporting Gaza and Ukraine, but even calling out the United States for being unfriendly in its imposition of tariffs. And unfortunately for Dutton, he has also made himself vulnerable to accusations that he is too in favor of Trump and America. Now, to be fair to Dutton, he knew that he couldn't just carbon copy the Trump strategy, and he has been tailoring his strategy to the interests of the Liberal Party. Yet, as we get closer to the election, we see he isn't doing so well under this pressure. Recent weeks have seen Dutton announce policies decisively, only to have them weakened in some way or another moments later. Take the dodgy public service cuts he announced. 36,000 jobs cut. People losing jobs. What a great strategy. But when he was questioned about it, he said that he wouldn't say where these jobs would be cut until after the election. That opens up the cuts being potentially localized to Canberra to jobs at stake in any city across the country. He has since waffled further, and now we don't know if the cuts are day one firings or simply hiring freezes. While we're on Dutton's dodge, we can also talk about his plans to abolish work from home arrangements for public service. The outrage to this went even beyond public servants. Now many working women who have embraced work from home and hybrid arrangements have expressed outrage. Dutton wound this policy back to clarify he would only roll back public service work from home to pre-COVID levels. In other cases, he promised divestment of insurance companies to break up monopolies, only to clarify that this wasn't actually a policy soon after. This week, he called for a referendum to strip dual nationals of their Australian citizenship if they commit crimes. But now other ministers are walking back on the promise to make it a referendum. Dutton is known to speak very clearly and decisively, which can be great when you're not in election mode and don't have to abide by what you said, but times have changed. He is in the running to leave the country, and his statements are now coming under scrutiny that he and his team are not prepared to respond to. Where is this strong man we were all promised? Indeed, the coalition's policy vision is not all that clear right now. It is hard to tell what they would truly do if they got in power. There is no strong policy on cost of living or housing, and what is out there seems wavering. The grandest vision they have brought out so far is nuclear power, but this hasn't resonated the way the coalition would have wished it would. I feel there are many reasons for this, and I may make a video about it later, but my main theory is that nuclear power just feels expensive, and Labor's attacks on the policy costs have cut through. Dutton set himself up for a culture war he thought he could wage, but now he has turned up to the battlefield, he has found himself quite ill-prepared for the actual fight. Dutton will have to work hard and fast to let the people know why they should make him PM. This month was definitely a change in fortunes for both parties, but it's not over. Most polls are essentially even, and there are many voters who are still disappointed enough in Labor not to give their vote to them. Labor will need to keep up its momentum and continue to do more to secure a victory, especially if they want majority government. The coalition, however, will need to up its game significantly if it wants to form government. The anti-incumbent anger of last year is subsiding. Voters have moved on to the bargaining stage, and they are now asking the parties, "What can you do for me?" Labor is doing a reasonable, albeit imperfect job at answering that question, and the Liberal Party will either have to pray for a cataclysmic government failure or answer that question seriously. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you have anything to add to the conversation, please add a comment below. Thank you, and I'll see you later.